Ugh. England. Grey. Rain. Disgusting. Horrible. Ugh. Why are we back here?
Because we live here and there are two dogs that need taking care of.
Oh, I forgot. But the holiday was so good. Can we go back on holiday?
Eventually.
Okay, that's nice to hear that. Because first we need to record some podcasts, right?
Welcome to Talk Cardboard, a podcast about board games and everything adjacent with me, Elaine, and you.
Holiday Efka.
On this episode, we will be talking about Toy Battle. But first,
our work in progress.
What have we been playing, Efka?
So I played more of The Old King's Crown, and I know some people have asked us, like, oh, what's it like at 4 players? So I've now played it at 4 players. I've played it many more times since we last talked about this game, but now I've played it at 4 players, and it is absolute chaos. And actually, my initial assessment was like, this is probably going to be like Citadels. At 2 players, it's very tight, strategic, and at 4, it's going to be chaotic. And I was right on the money. At 4, it is so hard to control, like, what is happening. It is very chaotic and unpredictable and constantly full of surprises. I did not enjoy my 4-player experience, but I wouldn't say it is my favorite way to play. I think this game is still great at 3 because it has that medium of both a little bit of chaos and sort of wrangling yourself.
Wrangling.
Why not?
Nice.
Do it on a hot Sunday. Enjoy yourself. Yeah, a lot of wrangling of between these like numbers and cards and abilities that you kind of, I don't know. I think that's the joyous part of the game, right? Especially once you become familiarized with it. But also has a lot of that kind of sharp, aggressive tactics element from the 2-player game.
I'm still thinking about the hot Sunday. Do you mean a Sunday where the weather's warm, or do you mean like a hot fudge Sunday?
Right. See, that to me is a misnomer, because a hot fudge sundae is not at all hot. It's an ice cream, right? that can get in the bin, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
What about like a baked Alaska where the outside is, well, slightly warm, maybe?
I feel like all these ice cream names are like trying to sound hip and cool. Like, whoa, look, it's like ice cream, but it's baked in the no, get out of here. So yeah, no, I mean on a hot Sunday, like, you know, what we have in England.
Yeah, sometimes.
No,
we do
don't.
Sometimes. We performed the other day. Do you think then it's better at 3 than 2? Do you prefer the 3-player?
I think that's my preferred player count. Yeah, because it has elements of both, right?
Uh-huh.
So
do you think 2 is too smooth? There's not enough like wrangling and wrangling.
Yeah. I need a little bit of chaos in this, a little bit of zhuzh, you know. I still like 2. I think it's very good at 2, you know. But you want to play it at 2 players. You want to play it with someone where you can go toe to toe with them, you know, because unlike games that are designed exclusively for 2 players, right? There's like, you know, if there's a disparity in skill, you're just gonna demolish the other person.
I see,
there's no like a safety net or anything like that. It just lets you go whoomp.
We both said that this game is one that benefits not only from you knowing the faction you're playing, but also knowing the factions you're not playing.
Exactly,
and I think that's true.
Just being aware of what they can do, and I think early plays, and I still feel like I'm in my early plays, right? Early plays very much hinge on having the right group of people in terms of people who are very happy to vocalize everything that they're attempting to do so that everyone can learn together. So that I think that's important. because it can turn a little sour otherwise. Like, there was definitely a free player game we played recently where I felt like I should have probably vocalized my abilities a little bit earlier because it left some nasty surprises.
Yeah, I do think you're right. And we're not necessarily used to doing that, especially in like with Euro games or worker placement games where you're like, oh, please don't go to that spot. And you don't want to vocalize, I want to go to that spot, or I want to take that card, or I want to whatever, do this action, because you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. Whereas in this game, you kind of do need to vocalize, okay, this is what you don't need to say what your game plan is, but you need to vocalize what your abilities are capable of, so that people don't get those surprises.
Anywho, still enjoying the Old King's Crown. I'm sure video review will be available at some point. But for now, we have covered it on the previous episode of Talk Cardboard in detail. If you're curious about that, past episode somewhere down the list.
We also played a game of Ensemble. How many players did we play it with? It was a lot.
I think it was
6?
5 or 6 players.
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5 players, yeah.
That was interesting.
It was. I wasn't overly enamored with Ensemble. So this is very much, I can sum this up in like 4 words. Mm-hmm. It's just one, but Dixit.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Is pretty much it, right? So if you're not familiar with Just One, it's a cooperative party game where you're trying to kind of give associations to other players via one word. And so like one person always guesses what the word is, or, it's very simple. It's very light. It's very fun. It's very popular, right? Like Just One is like a very well selling game. And, if you go to a board game club, you'll probably see it, or at a convention, you'll probably see someone playing it at some point as a kind of a something to end or start the evening with. This is a very similar game, but instead of words, there's Dixit style cards. They're not like full on Dixit style cards where Dixit is very like dreamy and abstract.
Yeah. No, they're just normal images. They're not like,
well, no, they have multiple elements like Dixit.
But they're not abstract in the sense that Dixit is.
I felt like they were
or Mysterium is.
I feel like they were a little abstract. There were like there were images where like two kind of conflicting ideas were blended into one. Okay. Like it's a ship that's swimming on a sea of fried egg or something like that. It wasn't quite that, but it was
that
nearing
is Mysterium.
it. So yeah, the way it works is that cooperatively as a group, you have like 2 pictures above this track and 1 picture below. So, and you have a hand of cards from like 1 through 9, but in this first round, you're going to be using just 1 or 2, right? And so what you have to do in the game is basically look at the pictures and then pick cards 1 or 2, right? Relating to the 2 pictures above. And what you're saying, like picture number 1 relates to the picture below the track, right? Or picture number 2 in your mind relates to the picture below the track. And if all the players, like play the same number, then you pass the level, and then you get to add another card, and now there's 3 cards, and you need to pick one. It sounds quite hard, but you have like a number of fails that you can do, and with each failure as well, you start getting freebies. Like, hey, one person can guess incorrectly, and you still succeed, and so on. So that's kind of it. That's the premise of the game. Yeah,
right. And you can get those failure tokens back as well at some point. So it gives you more opportunity. But it kind of reminded me of That's So Clover as well, where you're trying to make everyone else think the same way as you. But it's not you that has decided on the the kind of stipulations. It's the game that has randomly chosen the stipulations. I liked it. I thought it was it was a good end of evening game to finish on.
I think it was fine, but I certainly wouldn't say no if someone said, "Hey, do you want to play this?" I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, that sounds nice." But I think I prefer Just One, right? And the reason I think Just One works is because word association is a lot more fun, I think, and a lot more broadly approachable than picture association.
I liked how we played it, though, and I don't think this is necessarily in the rules of how to play it, but the way that we played it was if someone, like if one person or two people picked a different number from everyone else, we're like, why did you pick that? What was the association that you made in your head with this? To kind of, so you got to learn more about how other people's brains worked and how they associate things. And I enjoyed doing that.
I think it produced some fun moments, definitely. But the reason, and this is the reason I think why I prefer Just One, is because words are so much more immediate. Because when someone says something, right? Like that's the thing. Just One requires you to speak, right? And when someone specifically says something that you don't expect, it's a lot more natural to respond to that. But when there is like a picture, right? You can kind of all take time staring at it and no one says anything and it starts getting a little, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's why I prefer Just One in that scenario, because it's just a lot more immediate. And also, I think the pictures didn't really blow me away. The one thing with like Dixit and Mysterium is that the artwork is really good. And here the artwork was good, not bad. Just, it didn't leave an impression.
What game, if you were stuck on a boat for 20 hours, what game would you pop out?
So, as you know, we went on holiday, and if you want to hear more about our holiday, we'll have a bonus episode, a travelogue episode on Patreon, patreon.com/no pun included.
Nice.
But we brought Haggis with us, and I thought that was a pretty smart choice. You know?
Because it takes up almost no room. It's a card game, right? So it takes up almost no room, and it was a lot of fun.
We played it on our suitcase in our boat cabin, and that was like perfect because like, hey, we don't need a table or anything. We just need a little bit of room where we play our cards, and it'll be fine. And it was fine. Haggis continues to delight. Very clever climbing shedding game. I have not played Haggis in a while, so I had to refresh myself from the rule book and all the vagaries of how bombs work. And, it took like a second to get back into the groove of it. And the first round we played, not the first round, the first game we played, you completely demolished me.
And then the second one, you demolished me.
So it does take a moment to pick up on the strategy in Haggis, but that's kind of like the fun part of it as well. Like there's definitely a really fun sense of being able to manipulate your hand of cards in a way where like it doesn't quite want to behave, but where you can just wrangle it to do just a little bit more, shed a few more cards. But there's like, you never have that certainty because there's this tension of like, do I pass and, let you kind of take the lead and then maybe you will be able to just shut out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or do I keep on pushing even though like the end of my run is probably not going to be so good because I have a few stray cards that don't quite go in any like set or run or anything like that.
Well, I bluffed you at one point because you thought you were convinced because I had 3 cards in my hand. I played one of them. You were convinced that the other 2 were like a pair.
Yeah.
And they weren't at all. But I don't know, putting that like heaviness on you, putting that pressure on you. I think it psyched you out a little bit, and I think that's why I took that game away.
It's very good. If you've not played Haggis, again, we have coverage of Haggis in a past episode somewhere. It's a very good climbing shedding game, especially great at 2 players. Really, really enjoy playing Haggis. So if Scout is your jam, right, but you want to play Scout as a 2-player game, this is a very kind of, it's in the same genre basically, climbing shedding, but very good at 2, very enjoyable. Tichu is another one that people like. Again, that's Tichu's not necessarily a 2-player game because it's more of a team game, 2 versus 2. Whereas this is exactly great. You can play it at other player counts, but exactly great at 2. So if you like Tichu or Scout, nab yourself a copy of Haggis. It's well worth it.
Talking of trick-taking games, we have a...
My ears have pricked up.
We have an email from Montana. They say, it's Montana from Manitoba, Canada. I have noticed you folks enjoy trick-taking games. I've only started playing trick-taking games in my adult years, but have come to love them. I have even designed a 2-player trick-taker. I was wondering, what is the biggest reason you like trick-taking games, and what is the biggest issue you have with trick-taking games? And then they've put their answers as well.
Do you want to start?
I like trick-taking games, I think, because it tickles that space of... I like pub games, darts, snooker, cards, beer. That's not a pub game. And I like that there are so many variations of trick-taking games and what they do with a basic concept. And how, there's not just trick-taking, but there's the climbing and shedding, or there's, different ways. Like sometimes you want to take the trick, sometimes you don't want to take the trick, sometimes you can see what everyone else has, but you can't see what you have in your hand. Like there's so many variations, and every time we play one, it's just that little bit different, but it's the same basic concept.
You say that beer is not a game, but not with that attitude, Elaine. I think that's precisely the thing for me as well. I like that there is genre language, right? Mm-hmm. So like once you've learned terms like, oh, this is what must follow means, and this is like what shedding out means, and they are these conventions that are very easily translatable between games. So skills you pick up in one of them, like transfer to others. But because there are so many of them, there's like this sort of like muscle memory that you develop that carries over, but is constantly pulled in new directions. I find that very exciting. It's the same thing as with 18xx games, where like...
Oh, that took a turn.
Right. Well, I don't think it is. I think the 2 genres are so prominent because like within their own niche, right? Because they shared this core ethos, right? Rules-wise and play-wise, they are nothing alike. But because there are many of them and they so liberally borrow from each other and all work on the same core, right? Mm-hmm. You end up with like a strong, dedicated following because it's so easy to transfer skills, but also take twists in new directions. So these are, I think these are the only 2 genres of board games that kind of work like that, where like if you take something like worker placement, you go, oh, like, okay, it's worker placement, but worker placement usually, first of all, doesn't work by itself, right? Whereas trick-taking games usually do work by themselves. They do have exceptions, Arcs or Brian Peru or whatever, but generally trick-taking is just trick-taking, right? And worker placement is often like melded into many other mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
But worker placement has, like one core element. You have a worker, you place it, and then you block the spot for someone else, right? That's it.
But that's a core mechanism. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
understand
like,
what you mean.
It's not like a genre, right?
Yeah.
Whereas trick taking is a genre, and it's a genre that's really old as well, right? It is the oldest genre of games.
I was going to say escape room games too share a genre, but they kind of don't. Like, thinking about it a little bit more, they because every time I play a new escape room game, it takes me a minute to go, that's what the game is expecting of me. You can't just go into them going, well, I know the rough idea of how this is going to work, apart from maybe there might be some hidden information on a card, or you know what I mean? Like, or I have to escape, I have to do the puzzles. That's kind of the only thing that links them together. So no, I think, you might be right. I will give do the second question first, which is, what's the biggest issue with trick-taking games? And then I will tell you their answers.
I think maybe the biggest issue is that it is, I think the biggest issue with trick taking is that some people see it as a fad, and there's certainly been like a re-emergence of popularity, but you can't call something a fad that's been like around for so long. We don't even have records of how it developed or where it came from, or like it is literally the oldest genre, and for good reason. It defined, so many things like sets, right? This is not a fad. This has been around for yonks. It's just that like way more people are getting into it, and way more game designers are getting into it, right? So they're like, oh, what can we do in this space, right? But trick taking has been around forever, and I'm glad that there's a resurgence for it. But I don't think it's a fad, because it's not going to go away anywhere.
So their answer for the first question is, there is typically enough meat in most trick takers to work the brain a bit, but not so much that you can't socialise. And I think that's true as well. I think that's something I like about them, that they are very social games. You are talking all the time. You're going, no, all the time. Or, yes, I've got the thing that I want. And so, I agree with that. And their second answer to the other question is, sometimes trick takers can be a little too luck based without ways to mitigate the luck.
But like, I don't see that as a negative. That's the thing. It's like, I was just watching a review of Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore 2. and
Does that contain trick taking?
No, it doesn't contain trick taking.
Is that a trick in itself?
But strangely, it does relate to our holiday, because there was a Adam Sandler event on our holiday.
If you don't know, we went on holiday.
Yeah. And
like you're
again,
just showing off now.
If you want to know what the deal with Adam Sandler is, listen to our bonus episode on our Patreon. But anyway, not connected to it, I was watching a review of I was not watching Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore 2. I was watching a review of it. I want to make that very clear. But yeah, anyway, and the review was not very positive, obviously, but also they were saying, well, of course it's silly, it's an Adam Sandler movie, criticizing it for being silly is like criticizing water for being wet. And it's the same thing here. It's like, yes, they are luck based. It is.
I see.
It is within the remit, the domain, an intrinsic quality. So I don't really see that as an issue. Saying that, we have played Seas of Strife recently.
We did.
With someone who I could feel was, and has said, kind of going off of trick takers. And you can tell that Seas of Strife was not the right game to play at that time with that person because they were like, yeah, whatever. And and when the table isn't as fully invested in a trick taking game, I feel like it can fall like a little flat. Do you know what I mean?
But I feel like that's the same with any game.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you know what you're getting into and you're not necessarily up for whatever that is, then you're not going to have a good time. We have one other email that I want to read out. It's from Anonymous. They say they say lots of nice things, so thank you very much, about the podcast and about NPI in general, so thank you for that. They say, my question is, do you have any recommendations for small games that pack a punch and still work as the main game of the evening? For example, Turncoats is a proper minimalist war game in a small pouch. Trailblazers has a lot of variety in its game modes while still fitting in the travel case. And Haggis is downright tiny once you consider that you can play it with regular playing cards. They are right about Haggis. That is a very good game, which we have just mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It took me a second to come up with a good answer, but it was staring me right in the face. It's The King is Dead, right?
Well, let's, yeah.
Pulling on Elaine's heartstrings right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a perfect game for small,
No, it's just a perfect game.
It's just a perfect game. Okay.
It's such a good game.
It's small. The rules are simple, but and I guess Turncoats is also kind of derived from The King is Dead. Definitely a design genealogy there.
It has, similar mechanism where there is you're not on one team that you're trying to help win. You're kind of turncoats. You're bouncing between all of them and hoping that you will be on the winning team. So yeah, that's a good example of one. What about Through the Desert? That doesn't take up that much space.
Now it doesn't take up too much space.
Yes,
because now they made it in a small box, right? So it's a perfect suggestion. And actually, there's probably a bajillion games in Reiner Knizitz's catalog that
I mean, yes, there are.
Don't take up too much space, are light on rules, but have main game energy. Ra? Well, the box for Ra is on the bigger side. But yeah, no, they feel small, but have a big presence.
Thank you for your questions. And if you have anything to say to us about the games we speak about today or anything else, you can email me, elaine@nopunincluded.com. And if you want to remain anonymous, please just put that in the email. That's fine. I won't read your name out. Let's move on to our main game, which does have main game energy.
It's Toy Battle.
Does it have main game energy?
Okay, so this is a Paolo Mori game, a two-player Paolo Mori game, a two-player only Paolo Mori game. And I don't know if a two-player only game can have main game energy.
If you're playing just two-player game evening.
Sure, but that's not a board game night. That's just hanging out.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh. So when we say let's have a board game evening and we play games, that's just us hanging out. I can't add that to my I've had a board game night evening list.
I don't know. You can call it whatever you want, but I feel like, if we have people come over, that's different, it has a different kind of...
There are more crisps.
Yeah. Right?
When people come over. There's food, yeah.
Yeah. It's better, right?
And we get the posh lemonade when people come over.
It's true. It's all about the posh lemonade, right?
I really enjoyed this game. And it, unusually, because I'm not always a big fan of real head-to-head games, but I think it was just so quick. None of the games... We played, I think, 5 games in a row. And it was me that was saying, oh, God, let's try another map. Like, you were going, oh, okay. Well, yeah, all right.
No. I was enjoying this. I just didn't, I wasn't quite ready for 5 games of Toy Battle in a row.
It felt like they were rounds almost. Like they were so quick, some of them, that it didn't feel like I'd played an entire game. And I think that's why I wanted to keep playing more and on different maps, because I wanted to explore, that gave me that little tickle of, it's something new, right, still, because it's a different map. And there were slightly different rules for each map. But it felt like just a new round. Oh, come on, let's play one more round until you get sick of it.
No, I agree. I think this is very good, right? And it definitely is a very generous box in terms of offering you like a lot of variety and replayability. So if you're not familiar with Paolo Mori's 2-player only work, right? He designed a couple of games called Blitzkrieg World War II in 20 minutes, and then Caesar Sees Rome in 20 minutes. Blitzkrieg was definitely the more popular one, although I think Caesar was the better design. It's just that Caesar's production was terrible and the artwork was not good, but I think the game was very, very solid. So this sort of follows along similar lines. It's from a different publisher, so it's not the in 20 minutes line anymore, which continued without Paolo Mori for another game that I think was called Dogfight. I played it once and I was like, this is... and so here we have this sort of like similar trappings, similar feeling game, but very kind of like different genre, because this puts us in the realm of MOBAs, right? But very light, cute, and fluffy, because it's like toys. So, like Mr. Potato Heads and plastic soldier men and stuff like that, right? Except there's no Mr. Potato Head, but there's like a toy T-Rex and a unicorn and, that kind of stuff. And they're all drawn like toys, and it's cool because you put them out into lanes and they go and keep battling against your opponent, who's also putting out things into their lanes. And the objective is to basically take over your opponent's HQ, or alternatively, there are these medals that are placed on maps in various locations. And if you can surround a location with all of your units around it, then you get to claim the medal. So there's like little mini battles playing out on like in the middle of the map, as well as trying to kind of push a way through and take over your opponent's HQ. This sounds like really high concept, but actually the rules are dead simple. It is, you basically have this like standee, like in Memoir 44, where you have some units in front of it, and you also have a stack of face down units that are yours, but you don't have yet. So on your turn, you can either take something from your standee and place it on a map, or instead of doing that, you can
recruit more units.
Take them from the pile, put them onto your standee. You get 2 in this case. And where you place them, are basically, you have to draw lines from your HQ that are like a line of your units. So every space on that line, if you want to place one further, it has to be your unit and your unit and your unit going down the line to your HQ. The other condition is you can either place something on an empty spot where there are no units yet, or you can place on top of the other player's units as long as your value is higher than theirs of the unit that you're placing. So every unit is numbered from 1 to 7. So if you place a 1, and someone wants to place there and they can draw a line to it, they can place a 2 on top of that 1, and now they own that space rather than you do. Of course, where it gets clever is that the 1s and 2s and 3s have cool abilities.
Yeah, they have better abilities than the higher numbers.
Yeah, 4s, 5s, and 6s have sort of wishy-washy abilities, and the 7 has no ability.
But it's a 7.
Right, yeah. And there's an additional unit, which is very quirky.
Are we going to talk about the ducks?
Yeah, we're going to talk about... Quacky is the name of the duck?
No, you said quirky.
You see? Right. I see what you're doing.
Quacky.
Yeah. The quirky unit is the rubber duck, which has no value, but you can make it any value, basically.
That one definitely was for me the most interesting because you put it on top of a 7 and you're like, ha ha, I've taken away from your 7. But now the other player can choose what number that is effectively, so they can put a 1 on top of it.
Yeah.
So you haven't done as well as you thought.
Yeah, but it's like it's a kind of like a tempo exchange, because here's the whole thing. This entire game is about tempo.
Yeah.
You know, it's whose turn is it and whether they can maintain the pressure, right?
Yes.
And like it's fun to see a game boil down to like this one core principle effectively.
And sometimes you want to take new units because what you have is not that useful, but you know that you are going to give up that tempo because you need to spend a turn taking units. But I think it's the unicorn lets you place the unicorn and also take a unit, which is like, whoa, because you get to do both. And that's really neat.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, unicorns, that's what makes unicorn a pretty strong unit, because it's pretty high. It's like a 6, right? But there's also, I think there's something else, like is it the like number 1, the skeleton, that you place it and lets you take 2 units as well?
Yeah, the skeleton as well, but it's a 1. So it's really low. So, but it lets you take 2 units.
And it's such a funky unit as well, because you think, oh, it's okay, I'll just place it next to my HQ as like a starting unit, right? But then if like the lane gets pushed closer towards you, you then realize that all you have is a 1 protecting it, so and anything can go over
there is no way for you to replace the units. So unless someone puts something on top of yours, you can't just go, well, there's a 1 there, I don't really want that 1 there anymore. You're stuffed. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Some maps more than others.
Yeah, that's the thing. So some maps, there's a duality between whether you're going to go for the HQ or go for the medal victory, because both are viable, and it's like kind of you're pushing on both directions at the same time, and one of them's going to give. So like a 2-axis kind of, assault. Whereas other maps, it's very clear that there is no way you can take over the HQ, and the entire game is all about who's going to get like X number of medals first, because the number of medals you need depends on the map. And so there was this one like map in the clouds or something like that. I found that to be very boring, because everybody basically, you needed 7 medals to win. Everyone gets 6 medals and then fights in the center for the 7th one.
Well, I mean, there were quite a lot that there was a sticking point. There was one particular space that was the battle point. I don't know. Yeah.
But I think some of them developed more organically as to where that sticking point was, rather than they were like specifically like bottlenecked into that sticking point.
Is that the one you called the Rainbow Road?
Yeah. I called it Rainbow Road because it's, Mario Kart, Rainbow Road vibes. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't love every map. And actually, the one thing that I would have as a criticism about Toy Battle is that whilst it is fun and a neat little concept, I really like the theming. I like the variety of maps you get. There is that sort of like, I just wish there was like one extra layer to it. Not that, again, I'm not like seeking more complexity or anything like that. It's just, it felt a little bit stark sometimes. Even if I don't look at it as a strategic game, like a purely tactical game, I just want like one more layer of attack to make the game a little bit more dynamic.
Explain that further. What do you mean? Like, what would you add to it that would make it better for you?
Well, I'm not a game designer, so I'm not going to add something because then I'd
I'm not saying that, like, I don't care if it breaks the game or what. I'm not saying that we need to play test it. like for your brain, what would have helped? I don't care if it would work actually or not.
So like, I think like a third victory condition is what would be interesting. Like another layer of where you can expend effort and energy and attention towards to, something that I think would make it more dynamic, that, wouldn't make it sometimes boil down to, well, we all have, like, we both have 6 medals and now we need the 7th medal. So we're going to meet in the center. And then it's just, eventually someone's going to have a better hand of units than the other person and they're going to win. I feel like that's for me where, like, the crunchy part had a letdown and I wanted a little bit more. But I did not enjoy my time with this. I thought it was pretty fun doing all the things because it's so snappy and emergent and fast and again, a lot of variety. Like, every map has a different gimmick. There was a graveyard map where you could bring dead units back, and that really
cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's thematic, but it's also like, how are we resurrecting toys? How does this work?
Yes.
But
yes, we are.
Yeah, okay. But also, like, when you lose a unit, and there are, like, units that can, like, kill all the units, it feels like I've made such a misplay. Like, oh, that's my good unit gone. Like, that board presence has been eliminated. No. And here it's like, oh, this good unit has been killed. I can bring them back. That's even better for me.
What I found interesting too was that there is exactly the same amount of each unit. So whether it's duck to 7, there are the same amount. But you take out some units before you play. So some units, I think, was it 4?
It's 3, I think.
3.
Yeah.
3 units will not be used at all in this game. So, and you don't know what they are. So you don't know what the ratio, I guess, of units that you have is. And I found that quite interesting, that the stronger units are in equal number to the, I guess they're not weak units. They just do different things. So you have a chance of drawing any of them. And I never seem to draw the right unit at the right time. I think that was on me. And yeah, I agree with you in a way that some of the maps felt like it was more a battle for the medals. And only then would that third stipulation work, I think, because I like there being 2. I really like there being 2. And I as the kind of player I am, I wanted to try and move towards your area as quickly as possible and as aggressively as possible. And it didn't work. It just didn't work. And I like that about it, because there was no way of just, steamrollering into your zone.
But surely that's not necessarily a good thing. Like I get that, like, yeah, sure, like, the game allows you to make mistakes, right? But also, I feel like for me, if there's only, like, 2 paths to victory, it would be good that, like, both paths to victory are interesting and valid, whereas, like, there's only 2, and then there are maps that say, no, you can't do that. That's not as fun to me.
Yeah, right. And that's what I meant by only in that situation where it seemed the only victory was to have medals. Then maybe that third criteria would be good. No, but what I meant was, so in the first map we played, it was completely possible to win by moving into your area. But because HQ, thank you. But because I did it so aggressively, because my thought was I need the biggest, strongest units in the best places possible. And it didn't work. And that made me change how I played the rest of our games. And that's why I liked it, because it made me rethink how to play this kind of game.
I guess. But for me, that feels like an inherent quality to almost any game, like, you learn something and you hope that you can learn something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But that for me is a good quality in a game, that you...
There's scope to learn, yeah.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
I also really like that it wasn't about a real battle, honestly. I enjoy games that are about real battles, because you get to learn things from history. You get to learn about
by simulation.
tactics
Yeah,
via
this is
simulation,
not that.
right?
No.
And this is not that at all. And it made it feel lighter, a lot lighter than other games.
I just like the quirky theme. I think it's fun to think of toys, going into battle, because clearly they're not. Clearly there's two children throwing them at each other,
throwing their rubber duck at each other.
And if you think about it, we are those children. We are throwing the rubber ducks at each other.
That's why we play games.
It is. What a thought to end on.
That is all the games we have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And with that, why don't you say goodbye, Efka?
Goodbye, Efka.
Goodbye, Efka.